What is biohacking?
It's kind of a buzzword, right? So it's getting your body to do whatever you want to do in a certain time frame. One of the things I use in practice is something called...
Speaking of longevity, what are some things that is cost affordable that everyone can implement into their lives?
How your 40s and 50s go basically is going to set you up for the next couple decades. Even if you're 60 and start weight training, it's the first time ever, you're still going to have a cardiovascular disease reduction. You're going to have reduction of mortality, but it's not going to be the same as if you started at your age.
What does your diet look like?
If you're not eating a gram of protein per your ideal body weight, I'm not talking about what you are now. What do you want to be? Do you want to be an extra 10 pounds? Do you want to be 15 pounds under? That's what you're eating.
You look at all of the toxins and everything that's in our food, it's like, you might as well just not even eat it. I watched a 45-minute documentary of like how bad fruits and vegetables are that are non-organic.
I have a patient that was playing lots of golf. He had a ton of pesticide poisoning from playing all this golf, and it affected his brain. We did this test and said, you have atrazine poisoning. These chemicals to treat the grass. This is it. You got to cut back and golf. He's like, this is my life.
So we have a lot of young male individuals that are watching this podcast that are between the ages of 19 to 29. What are some specifically for those types of individuals that will help them be healthier, perform better in the gym, and have better cognitive function?
For me, it's always the less is more. Whenever I talk to patients, I'm like, the least I can have you do, the better off you're going to be.
All right, morning guys, what's going on? So today we got a good one for you. I'm here with Dr. Jason Pencek. How we doing?
Good, Jonah. Real good today.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you having you on. And Jason, he's been in the medical field for 8 years. You run 4 clinics.
Correct.
Here in the Chicagoland area.
Yep.
You have a large telehealth company.
Correct.
And basically, you're an expert in biohacking, longevity, and performance. So, dude, I'm excited to pick your brain because it's something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
And I've really implemented into my life, and it's changed my life the past 5 years. But first of all, how did you get into the health and longevity space?
Yeah, it was kind of an accident. I was in school, didn't know what I wanted to do. I was actually working. I graduated college, didn't have any idea, and when I was sitting trying to figure out my life, I had a job opportunity to go work in a hospital and do, basically work as just like a tech. And I was there and I realized I really loved it. My dad was a neurosurgeon. My mom was a nurse. So I'd already had experience in the medical field.
Oh, so you grew up in it?
So I grew up and I knew what was going on. I was actually pre-veterinary medicine. I was like, I'm gonna be a vet. I'm working animals. And I did it. I worked on large animals. I started going into think about veterinary school and I hated it. I was like, this is not what I want.
Why'd you hate it?
Person I was working with, they were large animals. So they were going from farm to farm to farm, and you'd spend 3.5 hours driving with like 3 hours for work. And I was like, I can't live a life that I'm going to be driving everywhere. When you do large breed like horses and stuff, there's no like one specific place. You have to like go to them. And that didn't seem fun or enjoyable to me. So I immediately was like, I can't do this the rest of my life. So I cut that out and didn't know what I wanted to do. Thought I'd do medical school, like actually get my MD. So I started working in the hospital thinking this was a good idea. And then as anything in life, I found a girl that I liked. And the only program I had that was near where she was living was like this nursing program that was there. So I did that and didn't like nursing, got into it, didn't think it was fun. Then I thought, hey, maybe work with my hands. I became a chiropractor. I thought, hey, I could just use these 2 things to fix everyone. I realized this isn't enough to fix everyone. Like I need way more tools. So I got my nurse practitioner degree, kind of all that was together. And then it kind of was snowballed, and everything I've done has just fallen into it. The biohacking, the use of all the longevity medicine stuff I do now was all an accident. It all just came from different things. My first seminar that I went to was IV nutrients. Like, how do I use IV nutrients in patients? How do I help with replenishing, basically all the vitamins and minerals that we have? And it was really cool. I was like, wait, I can actually use these things that we use as supplements that we can't get. Now I'm using them as IV, and I can really change like the health outcomes of patients. I started that. I started learning more seminars. I started doing joint injections. I started learning all these cool things while still in school. And then I realized this is the medicine I want to do. I started learning about hormone replacement therapy, how to do hormones in patients. And then my big change was when I ended up having friends of mine. They were joking for years, you've been in school for so long, you haven't stopped. When are we getting the steroids? When are we getting the growth hormone? Like, come on, we want to get jacked. We want to be big. And I was like, oh man, I don't know anything about this medicine. I don't know anything about these things. So I randomly looked up growth hormone. I was literally just Googling this like any of my patients do. And I saw something about growth hormone peptides. I was like, what are these growth hormone peptides? I've never heard of it. And one of my best friends is in LA. She runs a medical practice out there. And she's like, oh yeah, I do. She opens an IV clinic. She helps these clinics add IV. And she said to me, hey, I actually have a person who works with peptides now. I'll give you all the information they have. So she gave me all this information, lots of data, lots of papers, PubMed stuff. And I was like, this is super cool. I don't know where to learn any of this stuff. And it happened to be right at the start of when peptides started becoming big in the United States. It's about 5.5, 6 years ago. So one of the main presenters is this guy, Dr. Seeds. He has been presenting on this for years now as an orthopedic surgeon, and was the one mainly presenting on all of the peptides that kind of exist that work in my practice. It became a huge part of the longevity space for kind of patients and for myself.
Got it.
And
Okay.
I just was like, I'll follow this guy. I started following him, started going to all his seminars, started learning from him directly. And so I was with him from the very beginning when he started like teaching in the United States. So before this, there was really nowhere you could go learn. It didn't really exist. And so I found this right at the base when it first started coming out. And I was like, this is the future of medicine. You know, like the future of medicine is not only using drugs, nutrients, supplements, but peptides and everything else. So I always tell patients, your base is going to be what you do in your home. You know, Jen, what you do every day, wake up and doing, all the things I do in my practice are all to add to what you do. You know, I'm only coming in to give you advice on what things might help you, but you're the one living day to day. I can't be in your shoes eating your diet. I'm not the one telling you to take your supplements every day. I'm not telling you to take the things you do. I'm also not there to say, hey, did you go to the gym today? Did you get your 30 minutes of walk in? Did you do this?
Yeah.
My job is to come in there and give you the tools to get to that next level so you feel like you can. A lot of people come in tired, fatigued, don't feel good. And when you don't feel good, you can't take care of yourself. So it's my job to help you get
100%.
there.
Yeah, and I'm excited. We'll talk about peptides later in the podcast, but first of all, biohacking. It's become a very popular plan word.
Yeah.
What is biohacking?
Yeah, it's kind of a buzzword, right? So it's getting your body to do whatever you want to do in a certain time frame. For example, you know, we're here at a podcast. If this was early in the morning, I didn't sleep last night, what can I do to get my body to be like here, present? One of the things I use in practice is something called modafinil. It's a wakefulness drug. Him coming in at this podcast, I'm gonna be alert, oriented, ready to go. You have my mind working well, cognitive function working. Great, I can take this thing and I can get myself to where I want to be right now. So biohacking is basically getting your body to where you want it to go in whatever direction it is. Hey, I want to build more muscle. Well, let me find a way to do that with using these nutrient supplements and anything to get myself there. This is, you know, using like things like red light therapy, you know, utilizing, you know, cold plunges. So it's all of these kind of aspects that can get our bodies and our performance to be where we want it to be, you know, by using different elements or different things that are available to us to get us there. I mean, it's not like, hey, I'm sick and I have a cold. Like it's more of how do I get my performance and get my body to do things I want with what's available.
100%. And first of all, love the cold plunge. Started cold plunging about a year ago. Do it almost every day. What are the benefits of a cold plunge?
Okay. So I like cold plunge a lot. My biggest benefit and takeaway from this is resilience. Like it's what allows you to keep doing the things you want to do. And it's what gives you the ability to, look, if you could sit in a cold plunge of 37 degrees for 3 minutes, there's a lot of things you feel like you can do after that, after you're done. You know,
you feel like Superman.
Oh yeah. You're like, I could
go conquer the world.
I could do anything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I tell patients at the very least cold shower. If you can cold shower every day, you know, when I'm on trips and traveling, it's cold shower. So every day I do, you know, the same thing, cold plunge. Look, if you can get a cold plunge and put it somewhere, I'm all about the cold plunge. But for most people, I'm just like, at the very least, do something for the cold, because again, that's going to build resiliency, which is going to help you have a better, you know, day. It's going to allow you to push yourself harder. So at the end of the day, you know, we start being able to push ourselves, right? Kind of, we notice ourselves starting at the beginning of the day. You have all this energy, you know, you have all this cognitive function. You're like, I can do anything. And by the end of the day, you're like, oh, I'm done. Like I can't push any harder. Cold plunge would help you go to the next level. Hey, how do I keep going?
Do you study Wim Hof at all?
Oh yeah, Wim Hof is great. Wim Hof breathing is great. If you ever done it, he's super cool. This wasn't Dave Asprey, Tim Ferriss. I remember talked about this, and he did the Wim Hof breathing in hyperbaric oxygen, and he was like, I could hold my breath for like just forever. I felt like he actually wrote it in his book. He was talking about how he did it for so long. He's like, I think it's been like 6 minutes. I should probably just breathe at this point because I'm worried I might die. But with the breathing techniques, you can just hold and go and go. Wim Hof is great. Yeah, I mean, his breathing stuff is pretty amazing.
I love Wim Hof. I've been doing it on a daily basis. I actually do Wim Hof in the steam room.
Oh, really?
And that's helped a ton with my cardio.
Oh, my
I do
God.
boxing as well.
Yeah.
And I have so much more endurance.
Yeah, I mean,
now that I started doing Wim Hof.
Yeah, I mean, like, all these tools we have, cold plunge, sauna, like if you mix and match them, they're great. If you're doing cold plunge, sauna, cold plunge, back and forth, heat shock proteins, cold shock proteins, these are all really great for you. For me though, as much as I love the cold plunge, for me, the thing is just resilience. Again, there's probably, it's burning fat on you. There's some things going on, raises dopamine levels. So you just feel energized. You feel really good when you get done. Same thing you get out of sauna. You get out that steam sauna and you are fried, but you just feel so good after you finish. Do you mix the two back and forth?
That's what I did this morning.
Oh, there you go.
Did sauna and then cold plunge. And talk to us about the steam room and sauna.
Yeah. So the difference between your steam room and your typical infrared sauna is that the steam room doesn't take as long to be in there. You only need about 10 minutes. There was a study years ago on Finnish study, and the Finnish people, they would do the sauna more frequently. I believe it was like 2 days a week to 3 days a week. There was a certain amount of, reduction of cardiovascular disease. Mm-hmm. And so we saw if you were doing 5 days a week of steam sauna, which is like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, it's very short because it's very hot in there.
Yep.
You don't need much. And when you get there, your reduction in cardiovascular disease is huge. So all-cause mortality is going down from kind of doing steam sauna. Now, infrared can get you there. It just takes so long. I mean, you have to be in that infrared for an hour or more. I think it's great, but to get yourself to spend an hour a day doing something, I mean, when you block things off, it's like, where do I find the time? What things can I cut? That's where steam, I think, beats infrared any day, every day. I know infrared's easy. Steam is really hard to get. It's more expensive, but I think that's like the gold standard.
What's better, steam room, sauna?
I mean, steam room, 100%. I'm like doing steam room. If you can do steam room, because you can, the temperature can get so hot because that steam can get so warm, and it's such a short period of time. For me, it's like, how much time do you want to spend in there? That sauna is great, but do you have an hour every day to spend? No, you don't. But if you could spend 10 minutes in there and then cold plunge for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, your whole day's set. You're ready to go.
But you also get different benefits from the steam room.
You do, 100%. I believe the steam room has a little more, at least for like cardiovascular and respiratory. Breathing that steam in is really, really good for you. That hot heat is great. Anytime you're going to sit in a sauna or any kind of steam room, you're sweating. And skin is our biggest organ, so we're getting a lot of toxins out of our body. So I don't care which one people do. I just basically come to them and say, how much time do you have? Which one is going to be faster for you? I like the steam rooms a lot, but I do think the saunas have a great, if you can pick one or the other, I want the shortest amount of time in there. Right. I'm doing very similar kind of overlap stuff.
Yeah, same. I'm usually in the steam room because it's like, again, I don't have time. Like my mornings are busy. So I'm just boom, steam room, and then get ready for the day after my workout. What does your morning routine look like? Oh yeah.
I just recently switched it again. I used to do 5 a.m. workouts. 5 a.m., get up, go for my day. Right now I'm getting up about 5 a.m. and start my day with meditation. Every morning is meditation for me. Then I journal. I'll do gratitude journaling. And then I go sit outside for a few minutes, usually, if it's not cold in the summertime. Try to get some of that like morning sun. Now, again, we're coming to winter here in Chicago. 6 a.m., there is no sun. So I'm going right to the gym. I'll go work out, spend about, probably 30 minutes doing some kind of cardio, and then I'll go lift after that. So, and then I'll come back home, and if I can get, anytime I can get into the sun, so now if the sun's come up, maybe I've been going out getting some sunlight, getting ready for my day, and then going. So for me, it's, waking up early, going and doing the meditation, journaling, and then getting some kind of exercise and kind of sunlight every morning. I do my morning plunge as well. My cold plunge is right after that. So as soon as I finish my workout, I'm back to my cold plunge to get that recovery. And which I think is great. Whatever you can do, I at least tell anyone I talk to, as long as you can get a workout in the morning, that's the best time to get it done. If you can get a morning workout, and that is the ideal time to get it done. You're focused, you're able to get in there and get out. Again, meditation, journaling, these are all great things, but how much time do we have to do this in the morning?
Yeah.
So,
and there's something about cold exposure with sunlight.
Yeah.
Anytime I can get cold exposure and a good amount of sunlight, especially early in the morning, my energy is so much better and my sleep is so much better that night.
Do you have a cold plunge on your back and outside?
Yeah, on my balcony.
Oh, nice. So what do you do in the wintertime? You still out there freezing?
hasn't come around yet. We'll find out once winter hits.
You have to just kind of knock that ice out when you go there. That was my thing. I have a cold plunge. I just set it up myself. I'm like, what am I going to do when the wintertime comes?
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I know you can put the cap on and get that, but it's terrible. No one wants to be outside in the middle of winter, Chicago, sitting in a cold plunge. I mean, people make videos all the time of this stupid stuff because it's not pleasant, which is not supposed to be, right? That's the whole point. You're supposed to be uncomfortable doing this, which is what I love about the cold plunge. And again, that morning sunlight, if you can get that with the same time, that's like you'd win both those awards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Gary Brecka and his superhuman protocol?
Gary's great. I have a few Gary's patients right now.
Okay.
And they come to me and they say, hey, when I'm done with Gary, I'm going to work on it with you next because you're like the next step after Gary. I think Gary's really great. He has some really expensive tools. I think his top end Live O2, which is like the oxygen and EWAT device, exercise with oxygen therapy. And then I think it has like the red light bed. It's like 110,000. It's crazy expensive to do this.
I've looked into it.
Yeah, it's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
I'm like, one of his patients actually called me. They have a lot of money. They're like, I didn't spend all that money, but they did his regular program. So right now, Gary's regular program, what he's doing and everything with these people he's got out there, he's talking about his NTHFR, he's talking about methylation and stuff. His superhuman protocol is great. Like, right.
So what is that for those that don't know?
Oh, so methylation. So basically the problem is that we can have methylation issues in our genome.
Okay.
And we can't process certain things. Basically the biggest issue is with methylation, it's B vitamins. So you need like methylated B12, you need methylated folate. And if you don't have these things, you can have things such as homocysteine, which is a marker of inflammation of the heart. It can also raise blood pressure, does a lot of things that aren't great for us inflammation-wise, that can go up. So I don't typically run methylation profiles in my clinic. If people want them and ask because they watch Gary Brecka, they're like, oh my God, methylation's great. Well, if you're worried, take a methylate B12 and methylate folic acid. Those are the simple things. So if I see homocysteine up, which is what is an indicator for me, we just, all of a sudden you're taking methylate B vitamins and then it all comes down and usually it's just fine. Gary is very much like, I'm selling this DNA report to you, and he spent a lot of money to get it. His protocols, though, are great. I mean, his thing is, right, I want you to do exercise with oxygen. I want you to wake up in the morning. All the things I talked about, right? He wants you to do cold plunge. He wants you to do sauna. He's doing all that. What I got to say about Gary, he does everything. I love the fact that he lives the life he talks about. That's super cool because a lot of practitioners we know don't do what they say. You walk into your doctor's office normally and your doctor's overweight, sitting there talking to you about weight loss. You're like,
correct.
How come you don't understand? You're clearly overweight and you're telling me I need to lose weight. Are we confused at what the situation is here? And you see Gary, and Gary's like, literally, you watch it. I mean, I think Gary's great. I've been watching him before he started working with Grant Cardone and started blowing up 10X Health.
Grant Cardone, what he did with
Gary Brecka and brought him out 10X Health.
Or Dana White.
Yeah, Dana White too. Yeah, that was his big one. Yeah, Dana White was the kind of what brought all this together.
Dude, and just seeing Dana's transformation is like,
it's cool.
He looks 10 years younger.
No, it's great. I mean, like, this is the stuff we do in our practice, and I see Gary doing it. And Gary's just got a national platform, right? You get Grant Cardone money behind you to build something out. You can market everything. Mm-hmm. So from what I'm understanding, at least from some clients that have worked with him and also see me, he's grown too fast. I think Grant went on a podcast and said Gary was making something like $6 million a year. And then Grant said, oh, now we're doing $18 million a month. I'm like, oh, that's a huge change in volume. How do you get that to expand out to this level? Well, unfortunately, some people, at least in the beginning of the transition, have had a hard time getting hold of the people to do this. They're not following the protocols, they're not understanding things. I think Gary is amazing. And he has I have a patient of mine that went one-on-one and said, I spent 4 hours in his condo. This VIP program he did was not enough. I went the next step. He's like, it was phenomenal. But Gary's growth was too big, too fast, I think. I think he does great work. I mean, like you said, the protocols he's got out there are amazing. The superhuman protocol is super great. I love doing the oxygen, hyperbaric oxygen he does, doing the exercise with oxygen. It's all oxygen utilization. That's really what it comes down to. How well do we utilize oxygen?
Yeah. He's got great information, but I took his 10X test kit, and I was just like, and then they called me, and a little bit spendy for what they charge.
Exactly. And that was the price. People would come to me and say, I spent a lot of money at the kit. So they come to me and they're like,
but great information on his podcast.
Oh my God. Gary's amazing. Like, I love him. I've actually, his son, I think, reached out to me at some point and said something. Because I said to Gary, his son reached out to me. So like, I think Gary's doing amazing. Like, the thing right now is that he's getting the word out. And I think that's more important than anything else. He's actually educating people on what to do and how to live life. But we talk about biohacking here, and he's, we kind of think of the ultimate biohacker. He's doing all these things and he's telling people how to do them. We have Huberman out there doing this. We have a few other people who are trying to push.
Love Huberman.
Yeah, Huberman's great. And we're trying to get people to listen. Like, here's some free things you can do or low-cost tools that can work. And Gary's giving them. Now, Gary's tools are not exactly cheap. Is the problem. Some of the things he's asking you to do are very pricey. Do they work? Yeah, of course. But, it's how far down the rabbit hole I want to go.
Yeah. Speaking of which, speaking of longevity, what are some things that is cost affordable that everyone can implement into their lives to live longer, and not only live longer, but more importantly, live better quality, healthier lives?
Yeah. I mean, exercise. Number one. I mean, if you're not exercising at this point, you're missing the boat.
Weightlifting, cardio, mix of both. How many days a week?
Yeah, exactly. So I always tell my patients, and for myself, it's like 3 days of cardio, at least 30 minutes.
Okay.
Today I did the Stairmaster for half an hour. My heart rate was way higher than it should have been. I was like 156. That's way higher than you need to be for your cardio. You usually tell patients between like 120, 140. We can carry a nice conversation while you're working out. So that cardio for 30 minutes, 3 times a week is enough to reduce cardiovascular disease.
Okay.
Now, strength training is where it really matters to me.
Yes.
3 to 4 days a week. If you want strength training, this is the problem. Better bone growth. You know, you have all these neurotransmitters released, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, all these things being released, and you're getting all these great things when you exercise. Now, it's all exercise, don't be wrong, but strength training specifically can build better bones, better muscle. The currency of aging is going to be muscle mass. So as we age, the more muscle mass you have as you get older is going to be the game changer for how you live your life. For the most part, we're young here. So most of the people I'm talking to, I'm like, when you're in your 40s, 50s, that's setting your life up for your 60s, 70s. You know, how do your 40s and 50s go? Basically, it's going to set you up for the next decade. So if you're a couple decades, if you're not doing the things now, it's not like all of a sudden at 60, you're going to decide, I'm going to go start weight training now. And if you did, not that it wouldn't help, even if you're 60 and start weight training, it's the first time ever, you're still going to have a cardiovascular disease reduction. You're going to have reduction of mortality, but it's not going to be the same as if you started at your age.
Yeah.
And you built this into your life and your lifestyles. Now, I go to the gym 3 to 4 days a week. I'm in there lifting weights. It's making a big difference, right? Not only do you feel good, but all these markers for longevity that we look at for inflammation all come down with strength training. And I'm a huge believer in strength training being the base of anything. I will skip cardio days if I can't get them in. I will never skip strength training days. Like that's the days I won't miss. So I would definitely pick strength training over cardio.
Thank God. Cardio is my weakness.
Yeah, I mean, no, cardio is the worst.
But no, it's cool because there's a lot of studies that have been coming out towards just exactly what you said, the longevity benefits of strength training. And you look at a lot of the gyms being built now, their cardio sections are actually smaller and their weight training sections are bigger.
Yeah. I mean, that is the thing, right? Your cardio is still important. I mean, look, let's go to hotel gyms. Every hotel gym has a ton of treadmills, right? Mm-hmm. But I would say hotel gyms are getting better at starting to put more strength training equipment in. That was just in LA for training. And I walked into the gym and the whole wall is full of, cardio. But I'm also like, oh, they actually have a Smith machine. They have some stuff I can do, like, some free weights. And I'm looking at this like, I don't remember this being this way. I think they're doing a better job of trying to get strength training in there. I think people just love walking and movement and cardio. I don't know why we have this like love for cardio. And you just don't see the same people with strength training. When you walk into the gym, at least now I see way more people lifting than used to. It seems like we've seen a shift of patients and people in general saying, hey, I want to get stronger. I want to look body composition. Walking and doing cardio, we all look at the runners. You can look at the long distance runners who run marathons, and no one's looking at their body saying, wow, I want that body, super, super skinny with no muscle mass. Right. We're looking at people who are sprinting, right? We want muscle mass. They look fit. They look lean. When I talk to patients, especially about weight loss, it's body composition. How do I get more muscle on you? How do I get your muscle mass to go up? And that's all strength training involved.
Speaking of which, so when we are doing cardio, do we do HIIT or do we do lifts?
Oh, I'm a big fan of HIIT. I really do like HIIT a lot. I don't like solid state cardio in general. I mean, I'm doing it now, but that's part of my day. So I'll add that. I'll do like a solid state, like walk uphill, something like that for 30 minutes, which is more of like a fat burn in the morning. Mm-hmm. But then I'm coming back, I'm doing HIIT training later on. So HIIT to me is like the thing, but not everyone can do HIIT, right? If you have any kind of heart issues going on, if you have mobility issues, doing HIIT is really hard for patients. And those people are like, well, then at least go lift. Like, go lift if you can't. I would pick lift over HIIT any day. There's no question in my mind. You need strength training. HIIT is just no.
Or I'm saying like high intensity, like all out cardio.
Yeah.
Or slow, like walking.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So I would still say, like, I mean, right now I'm doing both. But if I had to pick one, for the longest time, I was just doing HIIT every morning. I'd walk and do HIIT. I'm doing it now because I have more time. I'm like, well, if I have an extra half an hour, I'm going to do some slow, steady, and then I'm going to add HIIT in. HIIT is going to be much better for you, but for a lot of people, they aren't conditioned enough to do HIIT. They have to start somewhere, right? You have to start. If you're starting uphill walking, great. You can eventually move into some kind of HIIT. Because even mobility, you can't lift weights, you can't throw weights around. It's hard to do HIIT when you are just doing body weight movements. I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, but I like HIIT incorporating function movements. I think CrossFit is a brand and it has its own thing, and there's a lot of reasons people like it, but those movements they do that are functional, a lot of gyms are adding those in. You're going to seeing gyms that are doing function movement classes, and they have like a mix of HIIT in there. And I'm like, this is what I want. I don't want to see a bunch of my patients doing, clean and jerks or these kind of movements. I think they're really dangerous when you don't know what to do.
Oh, you got to have the right form.
Exactly. Sure. And I think that's the problem that we miss in these kind of places.
And I feel like people are just becoming more self-aware, because you mentioned earlier about how, like, you go into hotel gyms, there's a lot of cardio equipment. Yeah. It's because they're overweight doctors telling them, hey, you want to lose weight, do more cardio. Yeah. But there's studies coming out that you actually burn more fat and, of course, put on more muscle when you do hit workouts with strength training and resistance training, or you superset your lifts, you burn more fat, which is interesting. Talk to us about, what does your diet look like?
Oh yeah. I love sweet greens. I love salads. Sweet
greens is the goat.
Sweet greens is the goat. Yeah. I was eating a sweet green salad as my main meal for like 2 years solid. It was every day sweet greens. I would travel. I would go to LA.
So Hermosillo's Chipotle, that's you. That's you. Sweet greens,
yeah. I would be traveling. My friends would joke with me. We'd do a ski trip every year in Breckenridge or Tahoe, anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'd be there with 3 salads. I'd show up with 3 salads. Like, dude, this food here. I'm like, you guys are eating pizza and garbage. Like, I don't want to touch any of the stuff you're eating right now. So I'm gonna bring my salads everywhere I go. I used to. Now I'm a little bit less.
Through your carry-on bag?
Yeah. I'll bring like a bag of sweet greens, and then bring my carry-on bag, and I'm like, that's my trip.
So if you're going out of town, you're pulling up a sweet greens, you're getting like 15 to go.
Oh yeah.
Packing them in the suitcase.
Yeah. The best was my friend when I went to LA. She's like, we have sweet greens down the street. Like, you can literally go to Sweet Greens today. You don't need to bring your salads with me. I still bring them. I'm like, well, I don't know. What if I get here and it's closed? I don't know what's going to happen. So
it's all macroed out.
Exactly.
Like, you know what's going on.
Exactly. I tell my patients I want to eat intuitively. I don't want anyone to think about what they're eating. My only thing that I care about when it comes to macros is protein. I'm big about protein. If you're not eating a gram of protein per your ideal body weight, I'm not talking about what you are now. What do you want to be? Do you want to be an extra 10 pounds? Do you want to be 15 pounds under? That's what you're eating. So if that's the only macro I consider and think about. I've talked to a lot of patients about this. I don't care how many carbs you're eating. I don't care how much you're going to eat when it comes to fat. Because if you're only focusing one macro and that's the only thing, you're going to be focusing on that so much, everything else will just fall into place. And so I try to tell people, eating intuitively is not hard, like just knowing what to eat. It took a long time for me. It took a long time to figure out what I needed for my body. But for me, sweet green salads, of course, salads are great. I think that's really useful, having some greens in your diet. I am not a fan of one diet fits all. There's the carnivore diet, there's keto, there's the blood type diet.
Right.
Everyone has a different diet. So for me, it's sweet green salads. I do a lot of protein shakes right now. I do a lot of beef jerky. I do hydrolyzed beef protein. Like, I don't do whey very much myself. I don't do well with dairy in general. So the first thing I try to tell people is find the allergens, right? So it's usually dairy, gluten, and egg are your top 3. If you're having bowel problems at all, cut those 3 out and see where you're at in a month, and then slowly add things back in. So for me, I figured out dairy didn't do well for me, cut it out. I love these barbell, protein bars. They taste delicious. They're whey, and they are not great for me.
Sure.
And I'm trying to keep inflammation down. So that's the thing. We want to reduce our inflammation as much as possible, and diet is number one.
Yes.
So patients come to with autoimmune disease.
What is inflammation?
So yeah, inflammation. We have lab tests to show us inflammation. Inflammation, most people your body's puffy, your stomach's bloated, you're not feeling good, things hurt, you have pain.
Yes.
All these things are going to relate to inflammation. So one of the things we can do and control that you can do on your own is diet. Right? That's the number one. You don't have to get nutrients or supplements right now. You just have to look at your diet. Number one is, where am I eating? Now, we do testing in clinic to see, hey, what food you're sensitive to. That's a great thing to do. And if you have an extra couple $100, by all means do it. But the simplest is the top 3: dairy, gluten, and eggs.
Yeah, and 80% of Americans are sensitive to dairy.
Of course. Yeah, it's super common, but you don't know. I have friends of mine.
Well, American dairy. Like, I had a buddy, he's super allergic to any sort of dairy, and he flares up, has an allergic reaction. He actually went to Europe and had the cheese over there.
Was fine.
Had the milk, was completely fine. Yeah.
What's the same as gluten? So gluten here is full of toxins. There's lots of toxins in the gluten that we have. If you go to Italy and eat gluten there, most people won't react. Now, if you have a gluten sensitivity or an actual celiac disease, you're going to react to gluten anywhere. But the reason why a lot of Americans do well in European food is that our gluten is full. Our crops are full of toxin. There's so much bad stuff that they put on these things, pesticides, herbicides. They really are poisonous. And because they do GMO, there's all these things that actually have problems. And gluten isn't as bad anywhere else because there's no toxins in it.
Yes.
So I always tell people, it's not even that maybe you have an allergic reaction to gluten, quote unquote. You just have an allergic reaction to the American diet of gluten. So yeah, for me, salads and then protein shakes, and it's just focusing on the protein. For me, it's about 210 grams of protein a day is what my goal is right now. I'm doing everything possible to make that happen. So I'm going to sit down and have any meal. I'm going to say, where's the protein? What am I getting this? And that's what everyone I want to think. If you're thinking about this one single macro, you're going to figure out, how do I get that in? So a lot of fruit in my diet, lots of fruit. I don't care about fruit. I go for it all day long.
Do you eat organic fruit?
I don't drink. You said drink?
Do you eat?
Oh, organic. Yeah, do I eat? I do organic as much as possible. I definitely wash. The other thing people don't do is they don't wash their fruit. If you're not washing your fruit, definitely wash your fruit. I'm big into that. It's easy. Vinegar, baking soda, that's enough to do it. They sell a lot of fancy sprays. You just put in the sink, you add some baking soda, you add some vinegar, you let it sit there for about 30 minutes, and then everything's clean. All the pesticides, herbicides are off. I mean, even if it's not organic, even with organic food, I'm doing that. But at the very least, if you're buying non-organic, at the very least of this, I mean, there's like that waxy coating on all those, apples we have now. If you get organic apples, they don't have that wax coat. So like they're putting stuff on this fruit to keep it around longer. Anything organic, you will notice dies quicker because it doesn't have all these things in there that are used to protect and preserve this stuff. That's not good for us. I mean, preservatives in general are not great.
Terrible.
Yeah, no, they're terrible.
Yeah, so, and it's interesting because I was looking at studies like you look at all of the toxins and everything that's in our fruit. It's like you might as well just not even eat it. Yeah. I only eat organic.
Yeah,
at this point because I watched a 45-minute documentary of like how bad our fruits and vegetables are that are non-organic. But I never heard of that cleaning method.
Oh,
so baking soda and
vinegar. And if you're not doing that, you will see stuff in the water and you're like, I've been eating this stuff on there because like it cleans everything off. You're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that. So I use that all the time. Even parasites, like this stuff is still on even organic. And so if you're washing like that, you get rid of parasites, you get rid of all these things are on there. We actually have a test called the Total Tox Burden Test. It does herbicides, pesticides, Lyme disease, heavy metals, and mold. So like ISO patients, a lot of us have toxin burdens. Some of it comes from vegetables and stuff you're eating. I mean, I have a patient that was playing lots of golf. He had a ton of pesticide poisoning from playing all this golf and it affected his brain. We couldn't figure out what was going on. I was like, oh, it's X, Y, and Z. Maybe he's not eating right. And it was like, we did this test and said, you play a lot of golf, don't you? And he said, yeah, like all the time I can. And I'm like, you have atrazine poisoning. That's what they use as chemicals to treat the grass. And I was like, this is it. You got to cut back in golf. Like, he's like, this is my life. Well, you need to find a place that doesn't use this, right? Then you have to find a fairway or a club that not use, and it's not easy to find. So there's lots of things that, I mean, there isn't just diet that's affecting us. It's everything that's around us. I mean, one good stat I like to tell men is that our testosterone has been dropping by 1% a year for the last 40 years because toxins, like we're constantly being bombarded. They actually think our next generation, our kids, will not be able to have kids because our sperm count's going down as well. So we see these things happening and we're like, what's the difference? What's changed? Toxins. We keep putting more and more and more in our bodies and we're being exposed to millions of things, microplastics, nanoplastics, there's pesticides, just like walking out and living your life, it feels like you just can't even do it now.
Oh, it's crazy. So what are some other things people can do to avoid heavy metals, toxins, plastics, different things, the seed oils, all these things that are poisoning us?
Of course. And I mean, that's organic, right? Number one, if you can eat organic as much as you can. I think the hard thing is most people can't afford organic. I mean, I was just in LA. I was just at Irwan, most expensive grocery store in the world. I think I spent $500 and it was enough.
Probably got two
days. Yeah, I literally went down 2 days worth of food. I'm like, what?
Small baggie.
What just happened? I'm like, I just spent the smoothie was $25. I'm like, where am I right now? This is not reality. So like, obviously, it's a price point, right? And it's the little things. Like I said, if the least you can do is wash your fruit, even if you can't eat organic, you can't afford it, at least wash it. That's the minimum I want people to do because there's lots of stuff on this that's going to get into your body. So simple things like that, right? Not using seed oils. If you could not use seed oils, like, look, there's some research showing it's bad for you. There's some research showing it doesn't matter. Well, I'm going to be in the camp of maybe it does matter, and just stay away from it if possible. I mean, maybe there's in 10 years, it'll be like, oh, seed oils was a fake thing. We don't see any data from that. Great. But if you stayed away from it, what's the worst that's going to happen? You just did get exposed. I mean,
and maybe like small amounts of seed oils may not be a big deal, but dude, seed oils are in everything.
If you go out to eat anywhere, if you ever go out to eat, they're using seed oils. The canola oil, they're using, especially in Chicago, this is the problem in Chicago is our food is so unhealthy when you go out to dinner. And
it's so good.
That's a problem. It's so good. Seed oils taste so good on food.
We have the best restaurants.
Yeah, we do. But I think the problem is that with these things we're eating are poisoning us. Like where we're getting sick from our food. Like our food supply is how we get so sick. So again, organic is one thing. Microplastics. There's actually BPA in the receipts. So when you go grab a receipt, there's like
That's what I've heard. Is that true?
It's true.
It's true.
Literally in the receipt, it's in there. So I don't touch receipts. I'm just like, keep it. I don't want to touch that thing.
I never even touched it anyway. I could care less.
Exactly. Like here, exactly. Yeah. So I always tell people like maybe stay away from this stuff. Now there's just lots of things that are estrogen blockers that are causing us to have estrogen disruption. And again, it's microplastics. So if you're drinking from a plastic bottle still, stop. Like stop drinking plastic bottles. That is number one. I mean, I know it's convenient. I know when you go to concerts, you go to things, they're giving plastic bottles. Like obviously you don't have an option. More so it's limit, right? I think staunch saying don't do this at all is unrealistic. It's more of where can we limit, right? Plastic bottles, plastic, in our water supply. So if you're going to the gym, get maybe a steel water bottle.
I actually just started doing that. I completely stopped drinking out of all plastics. I used to have, like the plastic blender bottles.
Yeah,
$10, would rip through those. Got a bunch of blender bottles. Started doing metal.
Yeah.
Because I read an article. I don't know if this is true or not. Maybe fact check me. I read an article. If you drink out of plastic water bottles and use plastic, you're consuming a credit card worth of plastic a week.
Yes.
A credit card worth a week.
Yeah. The microplastics. So we now microplastics, we know that exist. We now have nanoplastics, which can get inside the cell. So before it's like it gets into your blood supply, it's there. Now we are seeing particles so small that are in our like food supply, water supply, that you literally ingest it and it goes inside your cell. And we have no idea what are the implications in 10 years? I mean, literally we have no idea what the next generation is going to be like.
That just sounds terrible.
Oh, I mean, obviously, I think eating a credit card of plastic is probably terrible. Right? I think that's good for me. Cut that up, have a little snack. I keep seeing all these things, and unfortunately, we're in a world that gets more and more toxic. Yeah. And we have politicians who don't care.
Correct.
There's a lot of money. The drug industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, right?
Have you seen RFK policy to make?
Oh my God! Again? Yeah, I love RFK. He is
the GOAT. Yes.
He is the best. Obviously, some stuff he says, I'm like, okay, that's not been proven true. Maybe don't say all this, but I love where his head's at. At least he's like forward-thinking. Yeah. He's like, I just want someone out there that's saying, like, just like Gary Brecka, like put the information out there, give it out there, and let people decide for themselves.
Correct.
And I think we've watched the drug industry poison us for years.
Correct.
We've seen this. I mean, I think when the COVID vaccine happened, I think a lot of people were skeptical. Like, how come it takes you 10 years to make a vaccine? You made one in a year. Like, what are we missing here? What is this safe? And then people just we bought into it. Yep. And we now have seen I have a lot of vaccine related injury in my practice. A lot of people have got the jab, unfortunately, and they have heart disease issues. My nurse has she had something happen with her. I think she has Crohn's. She had Crohn's, and after she got the jab, she basically has like had like some heart stuff now since then. And I've heard that time and time and time again. Now, granted,
well, we sell life insurance. They ask about that in the application. There's a lot of insurance companies that won't even insure you now. If you've gotten the COVID vaccine. And that tells you anything.
It does. And also, I mean, there's now companies that sell sperm from non-vaccinated people. That says anything. They want the non-vaccinated sperm. So like even for reproductive stuff, we're thinking about what, this is worth more. I mean,
side note, you'll find this funny. So my buddy Connor, he actually at the beginning of COVID, he bought the website domain name to nonvaxsperm.com.
Oh my God.
That's going to be worth so much money.
Yes, it will. I mean, the thing is we're real time testing on humans what this was. God knows where this came from. Doesn't really matter. It's the fact that we have this now, and every year we're going to have COVID outbreaks. It's going to be on for the rest of our lives. Mm-hmm. There are some viruses we get, cyclomegaly virus 19, I believe. It's 18. I have to be corrected there. But if you have this, which most people do, it shortens your lifespan by a couple years. So the more viruses we get exposed to, the shorter our lifespan gets. This is just a very common thing. And if you have any viral exposure, well, COVID is another one. We don't know what's going to happen in 100 years. People have been exposed. Was the exposure different from doing the COVID vaccine versus COVID? Now, I do see people that got COVID that have had some of the same responses. Well, why would I put someone to get a COVID vaccine that for people at our age, it's not affecting that badly? There wasn't that much, showing we were dying in huge numbers. These people were getting exposed to this. Maybe it didn't need to happen. Now, I'm not against it. I'm not anti-vax by any means. There's no way I'm saying that. But I'm just questioning what we were doing with this. And then we see real time, kind of what would happen to people that have had these exposures. So for me, it's always the less is more. Whenever I talk to patients, I'm like, the least I can have you do, the better off you're going to be.
Correct.
I mean, do I get the flu vaccine every year? No, I haven't had the flu vaccine in, I can't remember, 15, 20 years. Like I haven't had that because I don't want more exposure to things that I don't have. Every vaccine they have for the flu, at least, is last year's flu. So I'm saying like, well, there's no guarantee that's going to happen again this year. We took care of it last year. I got exposed last year. I already had it.
So the less you can go to the doctor, the less medications.
Yeah, exactly.
The less, the better.
Yeah, and I think going there was
more holistic.
Exactly. And I was trying to say the whole idea behind this was, I just think that we've seen all these companies have a lot of power, a lot of sway, a lot of lobbying.
Yes.
They have a lot to lose. The food industry has a lot to lose when it comes to this. And so does, the industry that keeps us sick, right?
And they're making a lot of money.
They are
making a lot of money.
What, Ozempic is $50 billion in the last year? I mean, these companies are making massive amounts of money because we're all sick. 70% of people overweight, and everyone wants to be on something to lose weight, right? How many people out there come to me and say, I just want to lose 5, 10 pounds? I'm like, well, I mean, you can diet nutrition and, you can do it, right?
It's not about that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Crazy thought.
And I use these things in practice like candy because many people don't. Again, this comes back to the cold plunge, right? You do this cold plunge to build resiliency. Well, it's really hard to walk past when you see your favorite food and food tastes really good. They've made it, they've done so many modifications now. This unhealthy food doesn't satisfy you and really fills you up and gives you all these dopamine hits. You feel good. We all get addicted to food. When nice people overeat, because it's a drug, exactly. And you come with Ozempic, Mounjaro, all these things have come in and helped us like, hey, let's pull back, and we don't have that food noise. We don't. And again, I use it like crazy because so many people can't. They're unable to.
But you have to start with the building blocks.
Yeah,
diet, exercise,
100%.
healthy sleep, lifestyle.
100%. A lot of patients would come to me. I'll even offer that to them, like, hey, like you're 60 pounds overweight. Like you haven't been able to do this on your own. You've clearly been this weight for some time. Like this is a tool we can use. I'm like, I want to do it myself. I'm like, hey, I'm all about doing it yourself. I'm not pushing anyone on these things. But when they come to me and they're saying this stuff, I'm like, well, what is your diet like? What is your nutrition like? What is your exercise regime like? I think the simplest thing when it comes to weight loss, feeling better, diet, all these things is calories in, calories out. I think we all know that. The question is, how many calories are you burning? How many calories am I burning?
Correct.
I always talk about what's called NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's me moving my hands around. This is all the activity I'm making, and you burn calories from all these little things. When you don't feel good, you move less, period. You just sit there. You don't do anything. And then those movements go down, and guess what? Your metabolism goes down, slows down how much you're putting out. And now you eat the same amount of food, and all of a sudden you're gaining weight. You're like, well, what changed? Well, you don't feel good, so you're not moving as much. So again,
it's a spiral effect.
It's a spiral effect. And again, it just comes back to this food stuff, right? We just have to be very careful with our diet, nutrition. And this doesn't...
It all starts with, it's like, I mean, it's, in my opinion, you may disagree, but above working out, above anything else is diet.
100%.
Diet is 85% of it.
I mean, abs are made in the kitchen. They're not made in the gym. I mean, man, at my biggest, when I thought I was super strong, my abs were on point. I was the fattest I ever was. And I remember being like, well, what's wrong? What am I missing? Well, your diet sucks, right? If your diet is not on point, like it doesn't matter what else you do. You have to make sure your diet is going to it doesn't have to be organic. I would recommend it. I'd recommend you stay away from things that are going to put toxins in your body. Anything on the inside of the grocery store, we say no to, right? If you're in the inside of the grocery store, in the middle of the grocery store, it's not on the outside, it's got preservatives, it's full of stuff, it's not real food. All of that is processed, so ultimately processed that it's so bad for you. So I'm always saying, hey, go in there, go to the outside. Everything the outside, the meat, the deli, the fruits, the vegetables, all of that is where I want you to stick. I don't want you to buy anything from the middle, right? Everything. When's the last time I had a Pop-Tart? I mean, like those things were delicious as a kid, but they are full of garbage. And I'm looking at this like, how did I get allowed to eat this? And this is the problem with kids. We're training our kids to eat this way. Cereal is like the thing we give kids all the time. Like, hey, go eat some cereal. It's good for you. What is good about cereal? There's nothing in it that I think is nutritious for kids.
And we wonder why they have ADHD. They can't concentrate. They're emotional, anxiety, depression, all these different things because they're poisoning them.
Exactly. With this generation, right, that's coming out, we notice anxiety is way higher in these kids.
Higher than it's ever been.
Yeah. And why is that? Our nutrition is terrible. We're poisoning people left and right, and we don't know why. Why is testosterone going down? Why is sperm count going down? We are poisoning people from our diet, and no one's stopping it. And this is a huge alarm. I mean, I think Elon Musk has talked about it, like sound the alarm, like, hey, we're not going to have kids in the next 40 years. Should we do something about it? And everyone's like, well, yeah, the data shows we're not going to have kids in 40 years. Well, but who cares? Like, what do we care? No one's making a move to change anything. And it starts with
us.
Exactly. It starts with you. You're sitting here saying, hey, look, great. I love the fact you do cold plunge. I love the fact you do sauna. I could take all that out if I could just have you do one thing and get your diet correct.
Yes.
And that's the number one thing.
So if the individual's watching this right now, they want to live a healthier lifestyle, diet. Mm-hmm. Secondly, exercise, getting out, moving, weightlifting, cardio, implement cold plunge, sauna. And then once you're doing those things, let's transition a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk to us about peptides. What is a peptide?
Yeah, what is a peptide? So we know what proteins are. Proteins, meat, fish, chicken.
Yes.
You can look at the label and see there. Well, a peptide is just a smaller version of a protein. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, these small little building blocks. It's just a naming thing. Basically, at a certain point, they go from being called a peptide to a protein. Peptides are signaling molecules. They signal you to do anything and everything. I have a peptide for tanning. You want to be tan? Guess what? There's a peptide that will signal your body to make more melanin in your skin and make you tan. We have a peptide for making you horny. Hey, you want to have a better libido? There's a peptide that will tell your brain, hey, my libido needs to go higher. And it works. We have peptides for everything. They're just small signaling molecules to tell your body to turn some kind of machinery on to do whatever you want to do. I always joke there's a peptide for that. There's pretty much a peptide for anything that walks my door. There's something I'm using. We probably have, 50, 60, 70 peptides I use in practice. I just have a massive amount of things, and it just varies of where people want to go. We have injury peptides. There's one's called BPC 157, which stands for Body Protecting Compound 157. Anything and everything I have that's going to be healing related, I will use it. I have things for, growth hormone. I have CJC1295 and Nipamorelin. These are both growth hormone related peptides helping improve growth hormone, which I think we've heard a lot about growth hormone, but it does sexual function, it does immune function, does repair, fat loss, muscle gain, mood improvement, longevity, sleep. Sleep is a big thing. And so, there's peptides for literally everything. So when people say peptides, it's a very broad category. Patients come to my office, I want the peptides. What peptides? Well, the ones that you have. Well, what do you want to work on? Because these are the ones, I literally can name, 10 peptides right now, and they're all doing different things. Some of them overlap, some of them don't. So I always have patients come in. We use, again, these are tools. These are, again, like you said, after you've accounted for everything else. I think one of the things we actually missed when we were talking about things to account for is also sleep. I think a big part of what happens is when our sleep quality goes down, your life just goes down.
Yes.
So, diet, nutrition, exercise are big. And if sleep isn't there, that's my last kind of thing I would say, and add that in. Well, guess what? We have peptides for every of those. They're one of those things that exists. They can help improve upon that. You want to have better diet? Guess what? We have Ozempic and Mounjaro, which literally are going to crush your appetite and make you not eat. That's great when it comes to your diet and you're a person who can't control their diet, which is most of America. 70% of America are overweight. Not because they want to be, it's because they can't control how much they're eating, which they're putting in their body in. This is the best appetite control peptide that's ever existed anywhere. So why are we making so much money? It's because people come in and realizing, hey, being overweight is very unhealthy. It causes a lot of problems. Mortality rates go up.
Yes.
Let's control this. So there are peptides for literally everything we do. There's no peptide for cold plunge. I will tell you that doesn't exist.
You gotta can't finesse that one.
Can't finesse that one, but
can't cheat the cold plunge.
No, you can't. But there are peptides for pretty much most things I see that come in the door.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. So we have a lot of young male individuals that are watching this podcast that are between the ages of 19 to 29.
Yeah.
And they work out every day. What we do, we're entrepreneurs, we're business owners. We're on a very busy lifestyle, and it's a performance-based job.
Of course.
So what are some peptides specifically for those types of individuals that will help them in, be healthier, perform better in the gym, and have better cognitive function?
Of course. First thing to do with any client that comes to my door is blood work. I want to see where your hormones are at, where everything looks, where's your inflammation at, where are these things, because those things might affect cognitive function, which might affect your sleep, which might affect all the things that are going on. Like I said, we went through this. If you don't feel good, you're not going to take care of yourself. So these people coming in that aren't feeling good, we have to first check and see if there's any hormonal imbalances. That's my first step. There are some peptides I use for anxiety. I have something called Slank. It's a really good peptide. Slank and CMAX do really good for anxiety. I have a couple patients on it who swear this is the best thing. It's changed their anxiety. And again, 29 to 30 is that age group that's I'm a little more on the anxious side. What can I do? So very easy to use. It's a nasal spray. You can do an injectable. It will reduce your anxiety. Overall, I tell people my favorite thing is going to be the growth hormone peptides. Anytime it comes to longevity, feeling better, because we have such a wide amount of things we can do, which one of the things that growth hormone peptides work on is improving your anxiety and depression. You have that. It's going to improve cognitive function. Why it does that and how it does that is it actually improves androgen receptors in the cell. So these are basically, it's improving testosterone in your body. Like we've talked about, a lot of these people coming to see me now are younger and the testosterone levels are lower. Testosterone levels used to be, for middle-aged men, 700 was the average. Now it's 400, 450, sorry.
Speaking of which, at what point do you think people should, or if they should, get on testosterone replacement therapy?
Oh yeah, so it's very unique, very individual. If a patient's in their 20s, I try to stay away from testosterone in general. We have other options. There's 3 peptides that do this. We have kisspeptin, HCG, and something called DSIP, and gonadulin. 4 things I can do to raise testosterone. that do not require you to be on testosterone. Now, if I have patients that's so low, I have a 19 year practice where testosterone is so low, there's nothing that I can do. And they're accepting the fact that if I start this, I will be on the rest of my life. The reason I'm hesitant about starting patients young on testosterone is it will change receptors so that when you do come off, your receptors won't work as well. And then you're really tied to this therapy for the rest of your life to keep feeling good. Now, low testosterone, what do we see here? Low libido. Energy in the afternoon. If your energy in the afternoon comes and you're crashing, you're like, I'm grabbing a Red Bull, I'm grabbing, some kind of like coffee, I need something in the afternoon, I'm going to fall asleep. That's usually hormonal. I usually tell patients that's a testosterone issue. Problems gaining muscle mass in the gym, problems, losing fat, problems sleeping, problems with cognitive function. These are all testosterone. Your drive to be a man, what makes us men is testosterone. That's the drive, which is the animalistic nature to us. And if it's going down, you're going to see problems. I have multiple patients in their mid-20s who I see this going down. My first step is usually going to be, let's correct it with something that's going to be non-hormonal, because the better chance of you being on this, the chance that you can come off and not have a problem. Now, you're 25 years old. You come in, your testosterone is 450, which is normal. Your regular doctor would say, hey, that's normal testosterone. 250 is the bottom, 950 is the top. You're at 450, you should be fine. But you're saying to me, I'm exhausted in the afternoon. Like, I'm napping every day. Like, I'm drinking coffee. What should I do? Well, your primary care provider would say, oh, that really sucks.
Well, what's crazy is doctors are prescribing, if your testosterone's too high, they're prescribing pills to lower.
Of course. Yeah. No, of course. Yeah. And I'm like, it's supposed to be high. Like,
yeah.
I want you, if I had
it's important. Testosterone's important.
Exactly. One of my best friends, his testosterone was 1,000 at 28, 31, he was like 800. And then he hit 33 and he got to 400. And I was like, what changed? Because usually something happens. You have stress in life, you're not sleeping, things change. He's like, nothing changed. So sometimes it's idiopathic, where that means we don't know why it happened. And that goes down. I'm like, well, in that case, maybe I can give you a booster for 3 months, something to improve it. And we can see what happens. It comes up and then we can take it off and see if you're still improved. Maybe there's something going on with the machinery that wasn't working. Let's do a trial before I switch to testosterone. So my first step with most of my people is, let's try something to boost it that's going to not hurt you. Tungad Ali and Forty are two supplements that I think Andrew Huberman talks about, loves.
Every male should be taking those.
Those are great. They're great. And Tungad Ali actually will reduce what's called sex hormone binding globulin. So SHGB will pull testosterone out of the system. So take out your testosterone. Your free testosterone is what really matters, how much is free and available. And it will lower this by being pulled out. So albumin and SHGB lower testosterone levels in men. It lowers how much you feel like you have. Tungad Ali will actually reduce that SHGB. So it'll make men feel like they have more testosterone, even if it barely improves it. The Tungad Ali, Forty, they're going to add maybe 100 points, 150 points to someone. It's not major. I've had blood patients on it. Kind of works. Unfortunately, just
that definitely makes a difference.
It still does. Listen, it does. If you come in and you have 500, going to 650 is going to make a difference.
For sure.
Now, patients come between that 500. I'm like, well, what if we get it to 900? Where do you feel then? And so we have a patient switch. And of course, I think using something more pharmaceutical, the peptides are going to see a larger improvement. So if you're not seeing me and you're at home, you're just watching at home, you're like hanging out, what do I do? These are great options. Like these are the patients, like, you're probably not getting testosterone checked at 19. Most people aren't. Right. They may not be feeling great, but they don't know what to do. Go take these things. There's a very unlikely time of you having some negative reactions. Like, hey, it just works or it doesn't work. If you don't see a difference, no big deal. 100%. So I'm definitely all for people doing something natural as much as possible, low cost. But a lot of patients, again, at 450 have a lot of symptoms. So I'm like, 450, I mean, we give a lot of patients using clomiphene in practice, which is something to help raise testosterone by working on making your body think you don't have estrogen. So what happens? You don't have estrogen. The only way for a male to make more testosterone is to improve, or to make more estrogen, is to make more testosterone. Testosterone converts into estrogen. Now, this doesn't mean if I gave you testosterone or gave you this thing called a clomiphene, you'd have more estrogen from either one. Either conversion for you getting testosterone doesn't matter. There's an enzyme that will convert this over. Now, it doesn't matter which one I use. They'll both raise your testosterone. It's just that the clomiphene won't shut down sperm. It won't shut down your own natural production. It only add to it. So that's what we want to do. That's what actually Tungad Ali works the same way. It's actually a SERM. It's actually less selective. So some patients will have joint problems. They'll get joint pain because it's blocking estrogen at the joint level as well as in the brain, which is where we want to block the estrogen. So at the very least, yes, if you're feeling like you have low T, you don't feel good, first off, get it checked. There are lots of companies that do this. You can go online, pay a price, and they can tell your testosterone. And that's my first thing, because if we fix that, you know, it's like panning for gold, right? The first step is to kind of like shake out and see what's left. The first thing to fix is hormones.
Yeah.
If I fix
1000%.
hormones, yeah, patients will come back and they'll say, oh my God, remember that drive I had in the gym, I'm not gaining muscle mass? I'm gaining muscle mass again, which is great. Now there are peptides, like I said, the SLANK, the CMAX, we have CJC from Realm, which can help. All these things are going to improve, but your base has to be fixed first. What does my thyroid look like? A lot of patients come into me low thyroid, which is super common. It's not, it's clinically relevant. So like you come in and having symptoms, but it's not actually on the lab showing up where your regular doctor, again, the things I'm doing, your regular doctor's not optimizing you. They're just saying the levels look great. Well, the ranges for labs, people have to understand, is the bottom 2.5% and the top 2.5% of the cutoffs. Anything in that 95 percentile is normal. And I can guarantee that you can think of 10 friends or 9 friends you have, and you're not gonna have 9 other guys say, well, we all feel great. They're gonna be like, I don't feel as good as I could. Like, and people watching this are gonna say, I don't feel that great. Well, that's because the ranges are so massive for all these labs. So when it comes to hormones, there's a huge space. And, you know, there's optimal levels where you want you to be. And again, and thyroid's a big one for me. I see thyroid having depression, anxiety. If you're low in thyroid, those two things can happen. Your energy can be bad. You can have problems losing weight. So if we correct those things first and helps improve that, I mean, there's thyroid supplements. I think Huberman has a couple of things he uses. Like selenium, there's iodine, you know, that they can improve the things you already have. We could start there. Yeah. Like people can be at home doing this stuff. And that's the thing, is that people need more control of their health because your regular primary care provider is not doing all of this to help you.
People need to control their health, and they also need the information, and the right information, which was the purpose of this podcast and why I asked you to get on. Let's transition back to peptides. It's funny because at the morning huddle this morning, I had like three agents. I let them know you were coming in. They're like, like, dude, ask me about peptides. So peptides are becoming wildly popular, and they can do a lot of different things. And there's a lot of benefits to them. What are the downsides or the side effects of peptides?
I mean, literally, they all have their own things. I mean, I talk about Ozempic all the time. Ozempic's a peptide. The nausea is terrible. I have patients that, I mean, vomit for like days when they take their injection. There's, you know, most of the things with peptides are going to be very mild. You know, feel nauseous, skin sick to your stomach, you know, acid reflux, indigestion. These things are things we see with peptides. There are very few major adverse effects from taking peptides. Now, that being said, I just had a patient of mine give his dad something called FOXO4 DRI, which is a peptide to get rid of splenic cells. Long and short is, it was not used at the right time. He put his dad in AFib, and his dad had been in the hospital. So there are some that I tell patients, hey, like, you have to know how to use these. Find someone that does this. And also buying from compounding pharmacies is huge. This guy bought it from Peptide Sciences online, and his dad went to AFib. I'm like, so there's two things going on. You bought the source you had wasn't good because they didn't make it correctly. And also you gave it the wrong time to your dad. So like, these are the two things that happened that caused your dad to be in the hospital. So you do have to be careful. I always recommend working with someone. I used to post a lot on Reddit. I mean, a lot on Reddit. There is a lot of information in there. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. People always think peptides are super fragile. If I shake it, it's gonna go bad. All the pharmacies I work with all have, you know, assured me like, this is not exactly how bad it is. They do quality testing on this stuff. They do, you know, testing to see how potent this stuff is. I had a pharmacy take their products 90 days out, leave outside the fridge. Most peptides go in the fridge. It's like, we left it out for 90 days and we saw very little potency change. So,
but it's most important, it's make sure you're getting it from a credible source. There's a lot of fake peptides out there.
Credible source. Yeah. I mean, people buy online, you do not know what you're getting. This stuff's coming from China. It's not even that there's, it may not be the product they're saying it is, but it might be mixed with something else. There might be fragments of other peptides. You have no idea what they're going to do. So I'm always just worried. I have patients who come to me and said, this happened to me. Is this supposed to happen? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, this is not something that happens with this peptide. So my best guess is you got from a, you know, poor source. So when I go to Reddit, and there's a lot of, you know, yelling in the wind there, and people get on there and say, peptide, I took that peptide, I felt terrible. Well, did you buy it from a quality source? If you did, that's the first question. You know, if you didn't, then maybe that's the reason you had this bad reaction, because peptides are so safe. BPC 157 we use for healing. You could give gobs of this to people. They don't have what's called an LD50, which is what happens if they give this to an animal and 50% of the animals die. They haven't found one. They're like, we just can give and give and give this. Now, do I recommend someone buying bottles and just injecting, you know, 5 bottles of this stuff? Absolutely not. You just wasted a bunch of money. It's not going to be any better. There's only so many receptors. But there are peptides for everything, Joan. I mean, like, we're talking about anything you can think of, there will be a peptide for. I mean, like I said, My current stack right now is I'm on semaglutide, which is Ozempic. I will run that till the day I die because it reduces the risk of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, 20% reduction of cardiovascular disease. It's going to improve my cognitive function by reducing brain inflammation, reduces overall inflammation. It improves your liver enzymes, and it also brings down pain levels, helps with blood pressure. And the best part for me is it reduces cravings. Like we've talked about, nutrition is so important. I love sugar. I would love eating candy.
Right. I don't think anybody does.
No, of course. And so for me, I mean, I love high chews, like the Japanese Starburst basically. And if they're in my house, I will eat them. So for me, first off, we don't have this stuff in the house. I don't keep anything in my house. It's typically unhealthy.
That's huge.
Yeah,
don't
huge.
keep junk food in your house.
Exactly. If that's not there, you won't binge on it.
Yep.
But then semaglutide comes in and helps me reduce. So if I'm out with my friends, I used to get dessert and I'd eat like the whole thing. I'd be like, give me whatever and I'll eat everything. Now, semaglutide, when I'm on it, I'm like, give me a bite. Like still want to order, like I want something sweet to taste, but like it's a single bite. And most time I don't even think about it. Like my desire for anything sugary or sweet, it reduces craving. That's the whole thing it does.
What about stopping peptides? Can you stop?
You can stop. Them? Oh God, yeah, John. Anytime you want, you can stop. There's no adverse effect in coming off. I had someone yesterday ask me, "Oh, I'm on semaglutide for weight loss. Do I have to like tighter it and taper it down?" I was like, "Absolutely not. You just stop. Like there's nothing."
You stop taking peptides at any time.
Yeah,
doesn't have any adverse effect.
No. In fact, I just did that myself. I will go through periods. I mean, I love what I do. I love peptides. I'm on a lot of things, and every so often, I'm like, how well is this working? Like what is it actually doing for me? And I just stopped I was on BPC 157. I'm on something called GHKC, which does skin, hair, and nails, does collagen production. We really like that one a lot. Also does joints and kind of help repair. It also actually works on DNA and repairs damaged DNA. This is a big one for patients. As we get older, we get more damaged DNA. This GHKC fixes it. It's also naturally made in our bodies. So I'm on those two. I stopped them. I was like, let's just see what happens. I've been off for 2 weeks. My God, I'm so much more sore. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I take this stuff all the time. But you get used to feeling good. I think that's the problem. People get used to feeling good or they get used to feeling bad and they don't know what the other side felt like. When you felt like crap for 5 years, you don't even remember, well, this is just my life. Like I'm just used to this. I mean, you probably have a lot of people that watch this like, well, I've just felt this way for years. My doctor said it was normal.
You're so used to it.
You're used to it. So like we use these things as tools. Again, they are tools. And I think that's where it comes back to, nutrition, diet, exercise. These are your foundations. If you're not doing this, peptides are not going to help anything.
Right.
If you aren't taking care of the base, the pyramid, I can get peptides all day long, but I can't out-peptide a diet. I can't out-peptide your exercise. I mean, there's a peptide called SS31. And years ago, they were like touting this as like exercise and an injection. Works in mitochondria. It helps build more mitochondria, which is our powerhouse of the cell, which is how we make our energy at our cell level. And does this actually replace exercise? Absolutely not. You still need exercise. But they were like, oh, you can do this. And it's like the same as doing like an hour of workout for this one injection. And I'm like sitting here like, you can't tell people this because the second you put this out there, someone's going to say, well, I don't need to exercise. I can just take this. So I'm very careful about peptides. They're an adjunct and they're going to aid in what we're doing, but they are not the end all be all. They are going to do a lot of things. I mean, they will, again, I love semaglutide.
They just help capitalize on what you're already doing.
Yeah, 100%. I'm also on BPC 157 for repair recovery. I take GHKCU for my skin, hair, nails. And then I'm on testosterone right now, which is a growth hormone peptide. It's like the top one they have. I love it. I mean, I feel really great. My energy's great. My mood's great. My fat loss is way down. And then there's things we cycle. So I take these things for all the time. And I have patients that do different stacks. It depends what they're wanting to work on, right? If you're saying cognitive performance is what matters to me, right? I might throw Slank and C-Max in there, and that'll be the two you do. Again, for me, less is more, right, Jonah? The least amount of things I can give you, you're going to get overwhelmed if I give you too much. Same as giving supplements. If I give you 10 supplements to take, how long are you going to take those 10 supplements for before you say, yeah, I just can't keep doing that. I can't take 10 pills a day. I'm forgetting I'm doing this stuff. Look, the biohackers out there who are really dialed in, yes, I have patients like that who will not miss anything. They won't miss the timing. They won't miss the dose. They want to know everything exactly, and they will do it as long as I tell them to. But most of America and most people probably watching are like, yeah, I'm
I just want to be healthy.
Exactly. I want to be healthy. And I mean, how much stuff can I give you? If I give you 10 supplements and I say, you need your magnesium, you need your vitamin D, you need your fish oil, you need your zinc, also that Tongkat is pretty good. They start adding supplements. At some point, they're going to stop taking things.
Right.
And so it's like, for me, it's where do I dial it in? The least amount of things I can give you to do you can stick with.
And the more natural you can be, the better.
100%. This is where peptides come in, because a lot of them are naturally produced. We have a lot of things that are naturally made in our body. They go down as we age. That's part of the aging process. People ask me all the time, when can I stop doing this X, Y, and Z thing? When it comes to an injury, well, when the injury's better, great, you're done. When it comes to longevity and performance, some of these things in your body are going down permanently. They aren't coming back.
Correct.
There's nothing we can do, right? It's at a 20-year-old and a 50-year-old going to have different responses to peptides, because at 20, things still work. At 50, they don't. So my 50-year-old's coming to me and they're like, this is the best I felt in 10, 20 years. My 20-year-old's like, well, I guess I feel a little better. Well, that's because most things are still working for the most part. So it's kind of meeting the patient where they're at, meeting where you're at. And again, it still comes back to, if I can make you feel better, if I can help you through peptides or anything else, you will do a better job. It's a vicious cycle. Without you feeling good, you won't take care of yourself. If you feel better, your diet, nutrition, everything is better. So I do have people that come and reduce their peptides, because I feel so good now that I'm in the gym working out, right? I'm exercising more. Am I saying you should stop? I'm like, no. If you feel better though, when you're coming off this, and I feel just as good as before, then of course, why do you keep taking something? I'm very much about using things when it's clinically making a difference. There are a few things I use for longevity. I have drugs for that. I have some peptides for that. They're great, but the joke always is, how do I know it's helping longevity? Well, you're not dead, right? So how else can I tell you this is working other than saying you haven't died? So when it comes to longevity, yeah, these things probably need to stay, because you have to take them long term. When it comes to how I feel, we can move on that needle can be moved. How do I feel day to day? May take this amount of peptides, or may take this amount, or might take some, hormones, might take some, nutrients. It might be as simple as, are you still eating gluten and dairy? My number one thing patients come in, headaches, I don't feel good. Did you cut out gluten and dairy yet? No, I haven't. Okay, try that first. They do that. Oh my God, everything's better. You don't need a peptide for that. I just fixed your problem without having to do anything else. And I think people are just not educated enough, and this education doesn't exist because no one's willing to put it out there, because there's no money in this stuff. Again, Gary Brecka does such a good job at educating people. I gotta say, that's the one thing I'm so happy about. He educates everyone. That's his whole goal.
Yeah.
And he's doing stuff on things you can do at home. Huberman is the same way. These are people you can do at home. These are simple things you can do that you should be doing. And it all comes down to how much you do in a day, right? I wake up, journal, meditate, work out, cold plunge. Not everyone has the ability to do that. They can start somewhere. For that person, I'm like, look, if you could just go to the gym in the morning, I'm happy with that. Or maybe you start just with the cold shower. Like, hey, my first step is just cold showering every day. You have to meet the people they're at.
100%. The biggest thing is, what can you do consistently on a daily basis? Because a lot of people are like, dude, I'm gonna get my life together.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in check, New Year's resolution, cold plunge, and then it falls off.
Of course.
So just figure out what you can do consistently. But dude, this was great.
Yeah.
This was awesome. I could talk about this for 3 hours, but we're running out of time.
Yeah.
So Jason, appreciate you hopping on the pod.
Thanks, Jonah.
Giving us your insight. For those individuals that want to learn more about longevity, biohacking, where can they find you?
Yeah. So I'm Dr. Jason Pencek on Instagram. I don't have a Twitter. I'm on Reddit as Open-Minded Chicago Doc. And then I have a website, Nutriv, Nutriv, therapies.com.
Boom. My guy. Well, thank you.
Thank you.